Hello and welcome to episode 4 of IoT Unboxed. Today we'll be talking about indoor air quality and how IoT is contributing to monitoring indoor air quality within spaces. And for that, I have Miss Nazha with me today who will be shedding some more light about it. Okay, so Miss Nazha, we have a lot of IoT devices here and I understand they have a lot of different functions, but before we get into the devices, I'd like to understand why is there suddenly a growing interest within indoor air quality and health in a lot of the industries, right? And IoT is also something where I see that many manufacturers are actually coming and providing indoor air quality devices.
So basically, first reason is the health implications. So if we continuously monitor air quality in office spaces, universities, hospitals, we can track if any of these parameters are causing health issues in people there. Second is the regulatory compliances. That is an issue in these days where the laws and regulations are more strict on hospitals, offices, universities, where they have to monitor their air quality and provide reports based on that. And then there is also an increase in awareness among people on the benefits of using air quality monitoring on a continuous basis for firstly tracking the human health and implications. Secondly, it's also for the asset life.
I see. So it's a lot to do with human health, but also asset life. So that
And
actually-
regulatory,
and regulatory.
Yeah.
But when you talk about asset life, that's an interesting point. How does this help with prolonging asset life?
Yeah, so it depends on the certain parameters that you're monitoring. So for example, let's say humidity. Increase in humidity can cause damage to leather goods or increase in mold, fungi inside the buildings. That's also a problem for the structure of the building. Then for example, particulate matter is basically dust particles. So accumulation of these dust particles can cause damage to equipment. So if you want to use it for server rooms or anywhere where there's a lot of equipments, it's perfect for that.
Oh, great. That's very interesting. Now here we have, I see a set of devices and each of them functions very differently. Can you give us more details about how they work?
So for air quality, we support a lot of hardware and each of them has a different purpose. So we have, for example, these are for temperature, humidity and CO2 levels. Then we have temperature, humidity, CO2, formaldehyde, ozone, particulate matter, these kind of sensors built into this one. And we also have sensors again with temperature, humidity, CO2, light and even motion detection in this one. So we have temperature, humidity, pressure, light with the display also for this one.
Very interesting. So you have quite a lot of these devices, but why don't we just cram them all into one device? Why have some with CO2, some with PM? Why is this the case?
Yes, this is something that we frequently get asked as well ourselves. So basically, all these sensors have definitive purpose. Usually, the client needs are usually like, CO2 monitoring, where do you use it? Mostly offices, universities, schools, hospitals, where you want to track your employee productivity levels, ensure they have optimal comfort within these spaces to work efficiently, avoid drowsiness and everything. So in those spaces you can, where a lot of people are involved, you can use CO2 sensors, and in case it's too high, you can take like actions like increasing the ventilation and so on. Now for PM or particulate matter, it's mostly for tracking dust particles. Again, you could use it for checking if dust particles are too high, will it cause a respiratory illness and so on. But it can be also used for server rooms where they are very essential, or even for near the AC ducts and so on, where there's a lot of dust accumulation that's happening. Now, if you would like to monitor all the sensors together, we also have sensors suitable for that, but these sensors will consume a lot of power. And for that, we have these powered sensors, whereas the specialized ones are standalone or wireless, and you can just plug and play as you want in those specific spaces you want to monitor.
I see. So there's pretty much a trade-off on battery life and the number of sensors having I mean,
Yes.
number of sensors inside one
Yes.
device, correct?
For example, if you take a CO2 monitor, which is wireless, it has temperature, humidity, and CO2 levels and reports approximately 30 minutes, every 30 minutes. It can last up to 5 years without any kind of power supply.
I see. And also there's one interesting point that you said, right? You don't necessarily need all sensors all the time.
Yes,
So
correct.
depending on what the use case is, you will actually use the right sensor and then right device with the right sensors and
Correct.
place them in those specific locations.
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, another thing I would also like to understand is with regards to your platform, right? So how do these devices now work with the platform? I know you manage the Ignite Shield portfolio for Disrupt X. So how do you make the most out of them?
So first of all, for air quality, what you need to understand is the fluctuations and trends. Okay, so if you place like a CO2 monitor, I will give you an insight on what exactly you get from that. So you will get the readings on a regular basis, whether it's temperature, humidity, CO2 levels, and then you can do an analysis on the data. Like you want to compare how is my building last week compared to this week. What is the minimum, average, and maximum levels of these CO2, humidity, or temperature levels. Then you can also generate reports. So if you want to generate a report on your air quality, what are the fluctuation, when is it raising the alarms most often? Maybe you will identify a trend, like what we noticed in our office is that when we come into the office around afternoon is when there's a peak in the meeting rooms and everything on CO2 levels. It goes pretty high and we can say, okay, the productivity might be affected during that time and we need to increase the ventilation in the meeting rooms.
I see. Okay, so by ventilation, maybe opening doors, windows, etc., right?
Yes, and depending on your spaces, because we understand that each building will have a different requirement. You can customize your alert templates on the platform and attach it to your devices. So if you want to maintain your server room in a specific temperature, ensure you get an alert after 22 degrees Celsius, you can do that. And you can also make sure that these alerts are sent to you via email, SMS, calls, WhatsApp, however you would like to do that.
I see. So actually that's a good point. So this means that, let's say maybe if I would like to monitor certain parameters, for example, let's say particulate matter. So my thresholds would be very different if I put it inside an office space and maybe in a workshop, right?
Correct, yes.
Right.
Or
Okay.
a construction facility. Depends, yeah.
Perfect. That's really good. Now, we spoke a lot about the hardware, the devices, how they function. Now, I'd like to understand another aspect, and that's who actually would benefit here.
Okay. So like I said earlier, those who want to monitor regulatory compliance would be the primary ones, because they
asset
have
owners?
a requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, asset owners, especially hospitals, are required to monitor their air quality usually. Even for asset owners or retail stores where they want to ensure their goods are always in optimal condition, their tenants or their customers are having optimal comfort when they enter these spaces, they also can benefit from this. Usually all buildings, they usually have a mechanism where air quality is tested. Like somebody usually comes, tests the air quality with an equipment and then goes. So but this doesn't give them any kind of insights or trends on when it is going high, when there is a peak, what they can do to optimize these kind of scenarios. So for regular or continuous monitoring, they can install these kind of sensors depending on the specific needs of that space to ensure that air quality is optimal and their human health is maintained, and also the asset life is tracked also.
Perfect. So we're talking about any type of facility here, from schools, commercial buildings, offices,
Yeah.
etc., right? Wherever there are people, it's always good to track
Yes.
the indoor air quality. And the other benefit, like you've mentioned, is it's not just knowing the data in real time, right? The parameters in real time, but also knowing and understanding the trends. Maybe there are particular anomalies in certain periods where you could probably try to understand what has caused that at that specific moment.
Yeah, and even like in residential buildings, sometimes what happens is tenants complain there's too much dust or there's too much, it's feeling suffocation is there. So in that case, if they keep monitoring and showing the data even to the tenants that okay, we are maintaining it, it's more of a tenant satisfaction is also guaranteed there. They will be more at comfort knowing that it's being managed and monitored, and they can see that also.
I see. Oh, very, very good. Thank you very much, Ms. Nazan, for this another informative session. It's always great to hear and learn from you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you everyone for tuning in with IoT Unboxed. And for all of you who want to stay informed and up to date with all things IoT, like and subscribe and keep following our channel. Thank you.